Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajagana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gaurnitai Jaya Gaurnitai Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री ऐसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामचर्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा गिरिधरी भगवान की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मैया की जय श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gurudev. Hare Krishna, everybody, and welcome this morning to our Bhagavatam session, which we start by reading the Prabhupada Lilamrita. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai. Let's share my screen. Okay. I'm reading. If it's not visible, please let me know. Visakhapatnam, February 17th, 1972. A broad beach of white sparkling sands and the Bay of Bengal's warm, clear waters were special features of Srila Prabhupada's visit to Visakhapatnam. Puri Maharaja's small ashram where Srila Prabhupada stayed was only 5 minutes from the ocean, and every morning Prabhupada and his entourage of about 15 devotees would take long walks along the seashore. Yamuna quotes. I don't think Prabhupada ever excluded any of us from going with him to the beach. All the devotees knew at which time Prabhupada would be taking his walk, and we would come out from our different quarters and follow him to the seashore. The walks were brisk and refreshing and full of talk about Krishna. Somehow or the other, we were all able to hear Srila Prabhupada speak. Gurudas quotes. I always went on every morning walk, but one time I was sitting in the temple when suddenly I saw Prabhupada and the devotees going toward the beach. I immediately ran out of the temple to join them without even taking time to get my shoes. But there were barnacles and rocks leading down to the beach. When Prabhupada saw me coming, lifting my feet up high, painfully hobbling down the rough road, he looked over and said, "Oh, your feet are hurting. Why aren't you wearing shoes?" And I said, "Prabhupada, when I'm with you, I don't feel any pain." Prabhupada stopped and said, "Then why don't you cut your throat?" Everyone laughed, and I laughed also. He said, "There is enough tapasya. Why create your own?" Guru Kripa quotes. Prabhupada would talk philosophy and on and on. There were many things I couldn't understand. I would just listen anyway, although I couldn't remember anything. I would just hear and hear, but it hadn't registered yet. I used to walk behind him on the beach, and I figured that if I can't follow his teachings or example yet, at least let me step in his footsteps in the sand. Vishakha. Sometimes a dog would try to follow us or would bark at us. We were all surprised to see how Prabhupada would flick his cane and the dog would run away. Once, when we passed a cow on the road, Prabhupada gave her ample room to pass, and he told us the story of how he had been gored by a cow shortly after he had taken sannyas. Tejas. On a morning walk, Prabhupada was speaking about the dog. He gave a reference to a shloka by Chanakya Pandit about the 5 good qualities of a dog, that he is very faithful and satisfied with anything. And as soon as Prabhupada said we should be Krishna's dog, he was also speaking about how our pujaris should never be paid. The teacher and the pujari should never receive a salary. They must work in pure devotion. The Kshatriya also. He said that was the mistake in government today, that the Kshatriyas are being paid. He discussed so many things one after the other. Nanda Kumar. Srila Prabhupada would tell us to go bathe in the ocean. Go to the beach, he would say. So one day I asked him, Srila Prabhupada, whenever I go down to the beach, the sun is warm on my body and the water feels so good, and the sand, it seems like such a comfortable material situation. How should I understand your reason for asking us to go to the beach? I know the spiritual master never gives the disciple anything that will cause him to become materially attached, but always gives him whatever he needs to remember Krishna. But when I go to the beach, it seems I just enjoy my senses. How can I relate that to Krishna? How can I understand that this instruction is for my spiritual benefit? Prabhupada said, the sun is there. Krishna is the light of the sun. The ocean is there. Krishna is the taste of water. You are surrounded by Krishna. How can you forget Krishna? He is all around you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Parahamsyam Ekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyamavishkritam Tat Shrinvan Supathan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya vimuchye naraha. Bhaktya vimuchye naraha. Bhaktya vimuchye naraha. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. Share my screen again. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 19, Text 14. Yathaihi sorry. यथैहि कामुष्मिककामलम्पटः सूतेषु दारेषु धनेषु चिन्तयन् सङ्केतविद्वान् कुकलेवरात्ययात् यस्तस्य यत्नः श्रम एव केवलम्. यथैहि कामुष्मिककामलम्पटः सूतेषु दारेषु धनेषु चिन्तयन् सङ्केतविद्वान् कुकलेवरात्ययात् यस्तस्य यत्नः श्रम एव केवलम्. यथैहि कामुष्मिककामलम्पटः सुतेषु दारेषु धनेषु चिन्तयन् सङ्केतविद्वान् कुकलेवरात्ययात् यस्तस्य यत्नः श्रम एव केवलम्.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम. थैंक यू साई. जतो हि कामुष्मि कामलम्पटः सुतेषु दारेषु धनेषु चिन्तयन् सङ्केत विद्वान् कुकलेवरात्ययात् यस्तस्य यत्नः श्रम एव केवलम्. हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु, धन्यवाद प्रणाम. यथैहि कामुष्मिककामलम्पटः सुतेषु दारेषु धनेषु चिन्तयन् सङ्केतविद्वान् कुकलेवरात्ययात् यस्तस्य यत्नः श्रम एव केवलम्. हरे कृष्ण.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु, दंडवत प्रणाम. आगे मत गाएं. जथैहि कामलम्पटः सुतेषु दारेषु धनेषु चिन्तयन् सङ्केतविद्वान् कुकलेवरात्ययात् यस्तस्य यत्नः श्रम एव केवलम्. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I will also try. Yatha iya kamushika kamalampat suteshu dareshu dhaneshu chintayan sanketa vidvana kalavara atyayat jastasya yatna shrama eva kevalam. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Yatha, as. Aihika, in the present life. Anushmika, in the expected future life. Kama lampataha, a person who is very attached to lusty desires for bodily enjoyment. Eshu, children. Dareshu, wife. Dhaneshu, wealth. Chintayan, thinking about. Sanketa, is afraid. Vidwan, a person advanced in spiritual knowledge. Ku kalevara, of this body which is full of stool and urine. Atyayat, because of loss. Yaha, anyone. Tasya, his. Yatnaha, endeavors. Shramaha, a waste of time and energy. Eva, certainly. Kevalam, only. Okay. Somebody would like to read the translation?
Yes, Prabhu, I can read. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Materialistics are generally very attached to their present bodily comforts and to the bodily comforts they expect in the future. Therefore, they are always absorbed in thoughts of their wives, children and wealth, and are afraid of giving up their bodies, which are full of stool and urine. If a person engaged in Krishna consciousness, however, is also afraid of giving up his body, what is the use of his having labored to study the Shastras? It was simply a waste of time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. And somebody else would like to read the purport?
May I, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Dandavad Pranam. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. At the time of death, a materialistic thinks of his wife and children. He is absorbed in thinking of how they will live and who will take care of them after he leaves. Consequently, he is never prepared to give up his body. Rather, he wants to continue to live in his body to save his society, family, friends, and so on. Therefore, by practicing the mystic yoga system, one must become detached from bodily relationships. If, despite practicing bhakti yoga and studying all the Vedic literature, one is afraid of giving up his bad body, which is the cause of all his suffering, what is the use of his attempts to advance in spiritual life? The secret of success in practicing yoga is to become free from bodily attachments. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Dehe smriti nahi yar, samsara bandhana, kahan tar. One whose practice has freed him from the anxieties of bodily needs is no longer in conditional life. Such a person is freed from conditional bondage. A person in Krishna consciousness must fully discharge his devotional duties without material attachment. Then his liberation is guaranteed. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Haji. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The translation again. Materialists are generally very attached to their present bodily comforts and to the bodily comforts they expect in the future. Therefore, they are always absorbed in thoughts of their wives, children, and wealth, and are afraid of giving up their bodies, which are full of stool and urine. If a person engaged in Krishna consciousness, however, is also afraid of giving up his body, what is the use of his having labored to study the Shastras? It was simply a waste of time. So, as we all know, we are currently in the chapter of the island of Jambudvip, okay, and dealing with the Bharat Varsha at this point of time. So, this chapter 31 texts, and we are in the midst of the prayers. So, Narad Muni is Gayanti Chedam. So he's worshipping Naranarayan Rishi with the following mantra. And now he is making a statement. And it's a very, very, very relevant statement for everybody, more so for practicing devotees. It's like showing them the mirror and making them feel or realize what is their level of advancement in Krishna consciousness. Where have they reached? So let's look at some very, very nice points Prabhupada has made. But before that, we'll see the three sections, or rather 4 important sections of this verse. So in this verse, Narad Muni is first talking about the nature of the materialist. So what is a materialist, or how do we know that he is a pure materialist? So the attributes are given here. So there are 3 attributes of a typical materialists in this verse. So let's look at that. So first it is said that aihika, The Yathahika. So Ahika means the present life. And the next word is Amushmika. So Yat Ahika Amushmika. So that is both in the present life and in the future life. In future, what they are, these people, all they are doing is they are planning. So planning for what? They are attached to their present bodily comfort and their future bodily comforts. So a materialist is somebody who's interested only in the bodily comforts, that is, the body and senses. Whatever is giving me happiness and comfort to my senses and body is the activity I will do, or I will aspire to do, or I desire to do. So my goal is to enjoy. My goal is to achieve this, do this, acquire this to ultimately enjoy. So they are doing it for the present and they are also planning for their future. So that is the first one. Okay. So yat ahika, ahika and amushmika. So what these people are doing, kama lampataha, as we just discussed, they are attached to lusty desires for bodily enjoyment by hook or by crook. Kama lampataha. So that is the first point. Second point is to enjoy. So how are they planning to enjoy their bodily comforts? What is the means of enjoyment? So that is there in the second part. So here Narad Muni gives three. So in point 2, there are three subsections or three attributes he gives. So what is it? Suteshu, Dareshu, Dhaneshu. So three things. The materialist is after constantly contemplating about these three things. First is Suteshu. Suteshu means his children. Second is Dareshu. Dareshu means wife. And Dhaneshu means paisa, money. What is he doing? Chintayan. He is constantly thinking. He's absorbed. He's absorbed in his thoughts about his wife, his children, and money. So he's absorbed in what he has got, and he's more absorbed in how much more he wants to grab. He wants to get. So why is he absorbed in these three things? Why these three things? Why children, why wife, and why money? Why is it? Because these three things are his medium or ways or means to give him the bodily comfort, right? Why does somebody want children? Of course, when people come to Krishna consciousness, the perception changes. But a normal materialist is having children. Why? So that he can play with his children. The children can look up to him. They talk to him nicely and they look after him. He feels very much attached to them. Right? He has that bond, and that children, whatever they do, gives him some pleasure. So that's the Suteshu. Then Dareshu, wife, obviously is purely to give him pleasure in all forms. And then, of course, is Dhaneshu, that as soon as he acquires money, then he can buy all kinds of pleasures of this world for himself. And of course, for his family and his extended family, perhaps, but primarily for himself and his immediate family members. So a person who is constantly absorbed in his bodily comforts in this life and next life, that is first. Second, he tries to get these pleasures from these three things. Using these three things as the medium, he's planning his enjoyment. That's the second part. Then the third part is they are always afraid. Means, here it is mentioned. Shanketa Vidwan. What? The word here, Prabhupada translates Kukalevara. So he's Shanketa. Shanketa means he's afraid of his Kukalevara, of losing this body. And very nicely, Prabhupada writes that this is his body. We are so proud of this body that is full of urine and stool. It is said that because the urine and stool are inside the body, right? They are always there. Okay, it's not that it's only in the morning that they manifest. It's already there. In the morning, if we have a good system, then we need to expel, whatever the solid waste is. It has to be expelled every single day at the right time, at the right morning. And if the body is not expelling the waste in the right time, early morning, then the body is not functioning properly. We need to work on it. People who have constipation or irregular bowel movement, it is not a good sign, and it should not be prolonged for a long time. It will eventually give rise to a lot of diseases. So to maintain the body nicely, the body has to expel the waste matter, because ultimately they're all toxins. If the waste matter stays for a long time, then it will create toxins and create problems in the intestines. And then, of course, urine, which is constantly throughout the day it's being passed. Again, it's a toxic substance. It's something that the body is producing purely to expel. It doesn't need it. The body doesn't need it, and if that stays in the body for a long time, it will stink, or it will actually cause harm to the body. So these two things, they are there in the body. That's why we are able to tolerate our own selves. What to talk about somebody who sits next to us, right? So until the time it's in the body, everything is okay. But as soon as these two waste matters come out of the body, even we cannot sit next to it. What to talk about anybody else? So the body which produces these things, we are so proud of. And very interesting, because see, whatever we eat, they are all good things. And of course, as devotees, we eat prasadam, anything offered to Krishna, which is freshly prepared, freshly sourced, cooked nicely, offered to the Lord, and we have prasadam. Okay, so we're having rice and dal and chapati and pizza and pasta, whatever it is. They are very, very aromatic. Okay, they are tasted by Krishna. They taste so good. They smell so good. Yeah, they give us a good feeling. Our tongue is happy. Our mind is happy. Our eyes are happy. Our nose is happy. Okay, so all these good things that we prepare, we eat. We put it in our mouth. But as soon as it touches our body and it goes through the system, what happens? All those fragrant foods that are so palatable, our body, what does it do to them? Of course, it absorbs some of it for nutrition, and the rest of it converts it into waste. And the waste is so abominable that we can't even imagine to be with it for a long time. So we are eating good things, and this body is making it completely horrible. So this body, as soon as it is coming in touch with something good, it is making it bad. So similarly, this whole material world, as soon as somebody comes in touch with this material world, they become conditioned. They become as bad, should we say, compared to the spiritual world. They become bad because of the association. So this body, because it associates with good food, or good food associates with the body, they come out as something absolutely horrible. And to such a body, people are attached to. So it's a very nice example given here to make us understand that the value of this body. It is not that we should not take care of the body. It is not that we should not keep it in a good functioning condition by eating well, by having a good lifestyle, by having disciplined sleeping and getting up times, by exercising regularly, by taking proper rest. All of these things are required, but it should not be overly done. Spending too much time in too much decoration and only spending time on the body is not recommended. And that is exactly what a materialist is doing. Okay. So again, first is they are constantly planning for present bodily comforts and future bodily comforts. Second is they are trying to achieve those comforts in the form of children, wife, and wealth. And third, they are afraid to give up this present body, which is made up of stool and urine. So these are the first 3 points, characteristic of a materialist. Now, the fourth point is a heavy hitting point, and that is especially for all the practicing devotees, all of us here. Listen to this. If a person engaged in Krishna consciousness is also afraid of giving up his body, then what is the use of having labored hard to study the Shastra? It is simply a waste of time. So here, after giving the qualities of the three materialists, Narad Muni is saying that a Krishna conscious person who's practicing bhakti, okay, who is aware of the philosophy, who is chanting the holy name, who is reading the Shastras, who is performing service in the temple, if such a person is also afraid of giving up this material body, then what is the use of studying the Shastra? It is useless. And the word here used is, or the sentence phrase is, Shrama evahi kevalam. Right? There's a similar verse in Bhagavatam which ends with the same, Shrama evahi kevalam. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, know it. Anybody can recollect that verse?
Yes, Prabhu, it is in Canto 1, second chapter and verse number 8.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Do you remember that verse?
Yes, Prabhu. ধর্ম সংস্কৃত পুংসান বিশেষণ কথাসূয় ন উৎপাদয়ে যদুরতিম শ্রম এব হি কেবলম.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Macharan Prabhu is our local reference. So what is Krishna mentioning here, or what is mentioned in this verse, the one that Prabhu just quoted, is that all the occupational duties, the dharma, swanisthitaha pumsam. So the occupational duties a man performs according to his position, in terms of his ashram, this varna and ashram. What is it? They are only useless labor. Anything that we do as our duty in our varna and ashram is completely useless if it does not provoke the attraction to the message of the personality of Godhead. So if our activities are not connected to Krishna, we are not absorbed in connectivity with Krishna, then it is all useless. And in this verse, the current one that we are discussing in Bhagavatam, it is said that a devotee, if he is afraid of giving up his body, of course, in one way, everybody is afraid. Death, we sometimes discuss death amongst devotees also. And we know that people who are not following the process of bhakti, they are not very comfortable, when we discuss about death. They say, why are you discussing something so negative? Talk about positive things in life. But for a devotee, it is not about, death is not negative. Death is to face something that is inevitable. Okay? And a person who actually remains absorbed of Krishna, in Krishna, really, from his heart, that person, does he fear death? Yeah, does he fear? He doesn't fear death. Why? Because death is the gateway to leave this material world and enter the spiritual world. It's the gateway. So a devotee does not see death as a loss. Oh, I'm losing my body. Oh, I'm losing my attachment with my relatives. Oh, I'm losing my house. Oh, I'm losing my possessions. A devotee does not see it like that. A devotee sees that I've done whatever best I could do, and now it's time to leave and move towards my higher destination. I've done my duty to the best of my ability. Now death is only a gateway, because this body, my subtle body, gross body, is keeping me encaged here. Death will give me freedom. So if that concept is not there, then we will always be lamenting. We will always be fearful. So a person, if he is practicing Krishna consciousness and still he is afraid of death, then Narad Muni says, Shrama evahi kevalam. What is the point reading Bhagavad Gita? What is the point attending Bhagavatam classes if we cannot prepare ourselves for the inevitable? If we do not have that realization, what is death? I remember one instance where this is, I think, Ranganatha Maharaj was present, and one of his disciples was passing away. And all the devotees were there. They were having kirtan and reading of Bhagavad Gita. and this, I think it was Mataji, she was, of course, in the last breaths. And people were, the relatives obviously were crying, and this big. So Maharaj, he entered, he saw her, and then he came close to her, and just pretty much close to her ears, he started saying, "Now, Hare Krishna, you prepare yourself. This is your preparation to enter the spiritual world. Enter the spiritual world. Krishna is waiting for you with a garland in hand. So as soon as you leave this conditioned, encaged body, you will be free to enjoy with Krishna." Such a fragrant flowers. And he was describing the whole scenario in Golok with Krishna and his associates. And the way Maharaj was describing, even forget hearing, but even after reading that, we feel, wow, it is such a wonderful experience to leave this body and go to something that is eternal. And Maharaj very nicely he was describing, and just listening to that, everybody became so peaceful. Not that they were agitated, but obviously when a near dear one passes, it's natural that they will have expressed their emotions of somebody leaving them. But when Maharaj described that, it said that, of course, Mataji was aware, but she, it's almost, she just closed her eyes, and she was absorbed in Krishna anyway, but she was even more absorbed. And imagine your own spiritual master being there at the time of death and giving these descriptions and facilitating you to move on from this body to your eternal body. What a wonderful way to give up, this prison life, should we say. But only when we come to a higher purpose and understand the higher knowledge of Krishna consciousness, we realize that this body is actually a prison house. This whole material world is a prison house, and this body is like a solitary confinement because the soul is encaged in this body, in this material world. So it's not a great place to be. Yeah? So a devotee knows it, but even after understanding, if he doesn't follow and if he's fearful, then Narada Muni says, what is the use? You've just wasted. It's just like taking a diamond and treating it like a piece of glass. You've got Bhagavatam and you're not reading it. You've got Bhagavatam, you're not studying it. You've got Bhagavatam, you're not realizing it in association with devotees. You've got Bhagavatam and you are not applying it in your life to change your behavior. What is the point? And if we think about it, it is not just about death. Death is, why is death mentioned here? Because we are most attached to our body. True or no? Honestly, we are attached to our family, of course. We are attached to our own body. And attachment to our own body is very, very strong. So it is not just about the aspect of death, it's about attachment. The attachment is the issue. And we've discussed this before in previous Bhagavatam classes also. So attachment does not mean that we should not do our duties properly. Especially it is mentioned children, wife, and money. So we should not be overly attached to them to the point of being lusty. We must do our duty. We must take care of them. We must do whatever we need to do to take care of the wife and children in the best possible way. Okay. We also should work hard to earn money. But we should not become lusty or too attached to it. Okay. Sometimes we are doing it for our own pleasure. So we are maintaining money and these relationships because we want the pleasure, but we are not giving back. Sometimes the problem is we are not giving enough. We are only taking because we've got this grabbing mentality. We feel that everybody is looting us. And I need to acquire more and more and more. Even if I have to loot somebody, let me acquire. This is a materialist's viewpoint. But as devotees also, apart from death, quite a few things we become attached to. Like, for example, We may become attached to a service. We may become attached to having a typical type of food or associating only with a typical type of people. These are also subtle attachments. We often find, it's a practical thing that we see sometimes, and I give this example all the time, is people who are, doing pujari service or people who are serving prasadam. Okay, when they are serving out prasadam, it is to the guests who come to the temple. And when a guest is coming to the temple, they may be a complete materialist, whom we don't know. They may be eating all kinds of things at home. But as soon as that person enters into the temple, that person is a personal guest of Krishna. True or no? Krishna has called them. Krishna has inspired them to come to the temple. So they are Krishna's personal guests. Now imagine if we are told that we need to take care of the personal guests of the Prime Minister of any country. So the Prime Minister is present and he is telling us that we should take care of his guests. How will we take care of his guests? Special VIPs? By giving them VIP treatment. We may not know them. Okay, we'll not ask them, are you veg? The thing is, they are the guest, take care of them. That's it. So anybody coming into the temple, they are Krishna's special guest, whether they come for Sunday feast or a weekday program or whatever it is. So as soon as they come, our first duty is to look after them, just like a VIP. If there is prasad, we must feed them prasad. Once they are all happy, then we can have. So sometimes, and it is not that we can't make a plate before, but excessive. Sometimes we see people who are serving, sometimes they come a bit late and they are not able to have the prasad earlier on before they start serving, and then they're serving, and there is one dish that they really like. This is something I'm going to like. And they didn't have the time to prepare a plate, and they're serving, but their attention is next to, I hope the halwa remains. So he's serving, say, curry or a dal, but he's absorbed in the halwa. Why? Because he's worried it will get finished. So it's a very subtle thing. You're doing service only. You're serving dal very nicely, but you're absorbed in that. Why? Because you're fearful. Why? Because you're attached. Why? Because you want it. So the point is, it is not that. That's why we say it's a good practice for the server to just have the prasad, no packing, just have prasad so that you can serve nicely, even if it is delayed. But if you're not able to have and you're serving, the focus should not be on whether it is remaining or not. Focus should be to nicely distribute, and don't as per the instruction of the team leader, whoever is serving and cleaning. We must serve nicely. And it is my experience also, sometimes we see even when prasad is finished and the person who's serving may not have enough of that particular thing. Somehow or the other, some other devotee would have prepared and kept something for this person. Prabhu, plate for you. Means what? Krishna is there to look after. Now, it may not happen all the time. So sometimes if it doesn't happen, we should take it as, now today, my day is to fast. I should not. So I should not complain. I'm here to do service, to look after Krishna's guests. I should not complain. But why do we do that? Because we are fearful. We are attached. Now somebody might say, well, I'm attached to prasadam, so I'm attached to Krishna's mercy. So what's the problem? Yes. But are we looking at it as Krishna's mercy? Krishna's mercy does not come only through prasadam. So why are we attached only to that? Yeah. So somebody might argue on that. So it's a very subtle thing. In a very preliminary stage, they are all good. But when we come into a more advanced stage, then the focus should not be on attachment to something specific. Like even service for that matter. Sometimes somebody goes on leave and it could be anything, some pujari service or some serving or washing can go to somebody else. And when that person comes and somehow if the person who's taken that service in the interim period, he continues, then the person who had taken the service earlier, they feel a bit threatened. They feel that, oh, my service is going to go away. But sometimes we forget that Krishna's services are innumerable. If Krishna's glory is innumerable, Krishna's forms are innumerable, universes are innumerable, how can Krishna's service be limited? And how can so many people fight for one service? So if you're fighting for a service, then that means we are attached to it. We are not doing it out of love. We are not doing it because we want to do it for Krishna. We are doing it because we like doing it. I'm doing this service because I like doing it. I'm not doing it because Krishna likes this service. And of course, we should do it under the right guidance also, not whimsically what we want. So it is just an example. I mean, there are many layers to what I've just mentioned, in terms of what about this, what about that. But it is just a general example I'm trying to give, even in the life of a devotee, where if we become attached to something, it will produce fear. And if it produces fear, Narad Muni says here, Shrama eva hi kevalam. So this is a very, very important aspect as devotees we must always keep in mind. So let's look at the purport for some other, just a few other points. So here Prabhupada writes, the first part I've explained of how he is constantly thinking about his wife and children. And at the time of death, if he thinks about them, we know what happens. There's a nice verse in that Bhagavad Gita, Antakale cha mameva smaran mukta kalevaram. So whatever we think, we will attain after we give up this body. And in the middle of this purport, Prabhupada writes, therefore, by practicing the mystic yoga system, one must become detached from bodily relationships. If despite practicing bhakti yoga and studying all Vedic literature, one is afraid of giving up this bad body, what is the cause of all his suffering? What is the use of his attempts to advance in spiritual life? This is the most important part. So that's why, along with when we are serving, we also have to achieve this level of purification by doing our sadhana immaculately. Our chanting should be very nicely done, and we must constantly strive to improve. It is not that because we are saying 16 rounds, okay, chalta hai, it's okay. Just how can I do it better? How can I do it better? If I'm chanting only one round nicely, can I do at least 2 rounds nicely, and the rest can happen, when I'm getting the time. But we should constantly strive towards it. Second is, to be able to chant properly, we need to study scriptures. Sometimes because in the initiation vows, we just say, I should follow 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds minimum. We only do those 2 things. But simultaneously, if Prabhupada's books are not read, specifically Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, then it is very, very difficult to remove this fear that is being mentioned here by Narad Muni. And the last sentence Prabhupada writes that a person in Krishna consciousness must fully discharge his devotional duties without material attachment. So if we are doing our devotional service with attachment, with material attachment, then progress is very, very slow. Of course, anything that is connected to bhakti will ultimately produce results. But it is just like we are lighting a fire and then we are pouring too much firewood on it and a bit of water. So the fire is not totally extinguished, but the potency is coming down. So if you are attached to material things, we are, because of our bhakti, we are lighting this fire, but because of our attachment, we are putting it down. And again, when we do bhakti, it's coming up. So we are not making very tangible progress. The progress is very, very slow. So to make tangible progress, this is an important verse. And whether we are afraid or not, how attached we are, we need to evaluate on our own. And then we can realize that, am I wasting my time here? Just by doing the process of bhakti or following bhakti as a ritual, or am I really getting some taste and I'm liking to be absorbed in thoughts of Krishna at least during some part of the day. For us, 24-hour day, it's practically very, very difficult, especially grihasthas who are there in this forum. So we have to make a start. And to ensure that we review this constantly, regularly we review that, we need sadhu sangha. We need to review that with devotees. Where am I? Where do I want to go? It is a very, very important thing that never ever happens. I mean, very rarely we sit to evaluate our own spiritual life. So this is a very important part. And I would like to conclude with a very nice, you might have heard, it's a Hindi song, but it's a very nice and deep meaning. And if you can imbibe the message of it, it is no different from a Bhagavatam shloka. So it is like this: Naam Prabhu ka liya nahi, नाम प्रभु का लिया नहीं, धर्म का सौदा किया नहीं, ऐसे मानव दुनिया में जीकर भी जिया नहीं. So for those of you who understand Hindi, you would have known the meaning. Those of you who don't know, I'll explain. So naam prabhu ka liya nahi means throughout our life we have not taken the name of the Lord. Naam prabhu ka liya nahi. You have not taken the name of the Lord at all, or very minimal. And dharm ka sauda kiya nahi means we have not lived our life as per the occupational duties, as per our dharma. We have not realized our dharma in this life. We have not chanted the name of the Lord. Aisa manav duniya mein, such a person in this material world, such a person who is bereft of the holy name and of performing his dharma, what happens? Ji kar bhi jiya nahi means he is alive, but he is as good as useless. Shrama eva hi kevalam. So this is a very, very nice purport and a verse as well, talking about three things of the materialist. And if we are not, even as practicing devotees, if we are not very, very cautious and alert, we will also be engaged in these three things. It is not that we are not engaged at all, but as devotees, we try not to be attached. But if you are not alert, we will become attached. And then the fourth thing is bound to happen. So again, the recap of the three things. First is, what did we discuss? They are constantly planning about present bodily comforts and future bodily comforts. Second, they are trying to achieve their comforts through their children, their wife, and money. Suteshu, dareshu, dhaneshu, chintayan. And the third is, they are afraid of giving up this body, which is made up of, comprised just of stool and urine. Three things. And the fourth one, even a devotee who's practicing Krishna consciousness, if he's afraid of giving up this body, then it is Shrama eva hi kevalam. So it is time for us to evaluate, where are we in our spiritual journey? Where are we in our journey of bhakti? And whether we are doing some activities that are pulling us back and that helps us reflect and think, I hope I'm not doing anything that is forcing me to say, Shrama eva hi kevalam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. I'll now open for comments or questions. No comments, no questions, too heavy, huh?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam. Thank you very much for explaining the things so nicely about the outlook between a materialistic person and a devotee. Although apparently, I mean, when we do our activities, even as a devotee and as a materialistic person also, the difference lies in the consciousness really, because physically doing the thing sometimes for an outsider may not make much difference. But the person doing it, the consciousness really makes the difference, whether he's a devotee or a materialistic person. And the purpose of human life is to not to get afraid, as we are finally told. We should not be afraid of leaving our body finally at the final moment, because we should not be attached at all to this. Because You have very nicely told what are the goal of a materialistic person. He is attached to his present body and planning for the future, and through the they want to enjoy sense to Shuteshu, Dareshu, and Dhaneshu. But a devotee should not do that. And if we cannot do that, then it is a failure of our life. But rather, we should say, the purpose of life should be as given in 1.2.8, and the opposite is given, I think, in 1.2.13, where it says, Otho pumbirdijo srishto varnashramo vivagosho shanushtito dharmasho samsiddhir haritoshno. That means the purpose of life should be to please the Lord. If we do that, as a devotee, that should be our goal, and the first part will automatically be rejected if we can do that properly. So you have very nicely explained it. Thank you, Prabhu, once again. It is always a pleasure to have your company in this Bhagavatam class. Thank you once again, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
very much for your class. And yeah, I think there was lots of information for people to think about. So it's quite hard to come out with one takeaway from the class. Mainly, I've been reflecting of how we're doing the service, because in the material world, we are mostly forced to do something, and we got used to do something just the tick the box. And when I was thinking, what's the material service is different from serving to Krishna, serving in the temple, because you've been talking a lot about how we do our seva in the temple. And I was thinking, like, when devotees are doing service in the temple, I'm not sure about everyone, but I know for myself, it's something that you do for Krishna, and you don't do just to tick the box. You think of every single detail and want to do it perfect, and you think of that you're cooking or cutting vegetables or doing or cleaning for Krishna and for Krishna's VIP guests. So you do the service for the devotees and for the guests of the temple who, as you said, may just come for the first time and know nothing about Krishna, but Krishna invited them to the temple. And that is so important, that even doing some materialistic life, Krishna gives the mercy to concentrate on something outside of just physical or material actions. And sorry, I'm a bit lost in the words, but the idea is that you're trying to be as perfect as you can be for Krishna and his guests. Thank you very much for putting this in words and giving some thoughts. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks for reminding us, even being a devotee, we should not be attached. We can get easily attached to lots of things. I'll give you one example. If the host is inviting devotees from temple or from anywhere, they should come together and do the kirtana for the host. Not getting attached, oh, who's she inviting or he inviting? Just one example. So thanks for reminding. We're doing everything for Krishna, not get attached. It's very hard, but we have to remind ourselves, not getting attached. Thank you. That's the key point. I got it. We need to keep reminding ourselves every minute, how I'm doing. Am I getting attached or what? So thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hearing. Right. Okay. Any other comments? No. All good. So we can conclude here, Prabhu, if you permit.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, it appears there's no other person to make any comments. So thank you once again for your very nice class, and the class may be concluded. Pancha kalpatarupascha
Vaiccha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Ananta Koti Vaishnavabhindu ki jai. His grace
Suhrit Krsna
Jai.
Guru ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Gaur